Errol Spence Jr. seemingly gets disrespected by a former trainer, Derrick James, on his Instagram, or at least that's the way people are taking it. And when I looked at the Instagram post, I had to think people may have a point on this one. Let's talk about the breakup of Errol Spence Jr. and Derrick James in this video. All right, Cryptic tweets, Cryptic Instagram posts, rumors on boxing scene and all around boxing point to the very high likelihood that Derrick James and Errol Spence Jr. are no longer working with one another. I had a Derrick James Instagram post sent to me. Shout out to the people that let me know about that. Telling me about a cryptic message that was sent by Derrick James, which seems to too much in line with what the word has been about what's going on between him and Errol Spence. And having seen just from a very little bit of what was going on in that camp over the last couple of years, I have to say that, man, that is it's not a good look, man. That's not a good look. But before I get into it, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you guys so much. And thank you to everybody that supports in the super thanks of videos like this. Matty Ole and my guy Jay Miller, and the beautiful Barbara D. Thank you. But let's get into this because, hey, you know, big fan of that camp. Derrick James and Errol Spence Jr. and Anthony Joshua was over there, and Jermell Charlo and Frank Martin. Anthony Joshua was over there for a couple fights. At a point in time between Errol Spence Jr. and Jermell Charlo, they had 7 of the 8 major championship belts between 147 and 154. And it seems like all of that went away pretty quick. Now, Derrick James, who's the trainer over there, and I've said this, had this incredibly successful career so far, made a lot of money in the fights. It should have made a lot of money in the fights that took place last year. Was trainer of the year in 2022. Right, so everything, but I knew, and people have been saying this in the past, that not everything was, 100% kosher over there in the relationship between Errol Spence and Derrick James, and it seems to now have gone full circle to no longer be in existence, at least not as a trainer and a trainer fighter type of situation. Now, yesterday on Derrick James's Instagram, he posted something which was a clip from a movie. Don't know what the movie was, but basically, or what the video was, but it was a guy that was saying, I'm the type of guy that will cut you. If you're not going the same way that I'm going, I'll cut you, which means I'll let you go, and that's just what it is. Just paraphrasing what it is, but it's clearly if somebody says, if you're not on the same page as me, I don't have a problem letting you go. Now, that jives with what had been said about how Derrick James was supposedly kicked Errol Spence Jr. out of his gym because Errol wouldn't pay him the money that Derrick James wanted him to pay. My understanding is that, and this is on a tweet that was liked by Errol Spence himself, that Errol Spence Jr. paid Derrick James his purse for the fight, but Derrick James wanted a cut of the pay-per-view and Errol, or whatever the other residual income for the fight, and Errol Spence Jr. told him no, and that was the cause of their of the problem. Right now, just for what it's worth, I knew, and I said this before right after the Errol Spence Terrence Crawford fight, that I knew that there was issues and people in the camp of Errol Spence Jr. that wanted to let Derrick James go. And they felt that the people that I knew felt that, Errol could become a better fighter if he got another set of eyes in his camp. But ultimately, nobody knew what was going to go on. That was going to be Errol Spence Jr.'s. That's going to be Errol Spence Jr.'s decision. So the fact that it's ending to me is really not a surprise. If Derrick James put that out there and that was that kind of like a cryptic message, I think that that's unfortunate. I think that, a guy that, and this is obviously from the outside looking in, you don't know what type of problems the guys have had, but without Errol Spence Jr., there is no Derrick James as far as a trainer on a world-class level. I think that that's pretty safe to say, because Derrick was not training at a world-class level when Errol Sr. and Errol met him in the amateurs in Texas, and they started training then. Errol Spence Jr. was his first major guy. I do believe that Errol was friends with Jermell and brought Jermell to Derrick. So the fact that Derrick's career was kind of built from that, made that starting, that as a trainer at least, that starting block moving forward, and really did get to become one of the leading trainers in boxing because of it. You would think that things would end a little bit more amicably. Also, Derrick being the more the older guy, the 50-year-old guy versus Errol, who was in his early 30s. You would think that it would be the older guy that would kind of take the higher road. Not that what he said was any way terrible, right? Didn't talk bad about him directly, right? Nothing came out of his mouth. Just all around, it is what it is, though. Not all relationships last forever. People find new trainers, work with new trainers. Trainers find new fighters, work with new fighters. I will say, though, that if it's about a pay-per-view and getting paid out of the pay-per-view, it's kind of tough for me to swallow, because Derrick James has been on multiple pay-per-views with Errol Spence, and I'm not quite sure how that would affect it. But maybe before Errol had given Derrick James, an extra pay after, for the, when a pay-per-view did well, and maybe that's what Derrick James was expecting. And maybe, I don't know, maybe Jermell Charlo did it, and after he fought Canelo and got that big paycheck. Now, this is clearly speculation on my part, but there had to be something there. But I know that there was something on both sides of that scenario. And plus, it's tough when you lose a big fight like that, right? And there's a lot of embarrassment. There's a lot of, people calling to make changes. But anyway, at the end of the day, I wish them both well. But it does seem that those guys are not going to be with one another. We'll see what happens, though, in June when Frank Martin fights Gervonta Davis, and whether or not, if Gervonta Davis beats him, he changes trainers or changes promotional companies or whatever. But they're at least working together for that next one. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.